Hey, Brad, it's Pete at AP. I hope you're well. I hope you and your family are handling or getting through this okay. Um, what's your outlook on this season? What do you see out of these guys so far, and what kind of steps forward do you think that you guys will be able to make?
Yeah, uncertainty is the first thing, just because of COVID. I think more than anything, this is a year where um, there's going to be challenges that just pop up that you're going to have to deal with that are going to make it hard. But I'm really optimistic. I like our team a lot. Our guys have been unbelievable in terms of the sacrifices they've made so far. Our guys are, really not doing much other than going, not going to class, but doing their schoolwork and coming to the gym and working out and practicing. And, because of that, we've been fortunate that we haven't had much COVID on our team. And so we've been able to have some consistency with practices, which I think is really important. And I think that's going to be one of the big challenges going forward for teams that have some shutdowns or have things happen during the season. Obviously, that's what really scares me, is that because we've had so little COVID now, obviously I'm nervous with the prospect of, are we going to make it 4 or 5 more months without it? And now when you have it, you're missing games. And so that part of it scares me. I know our guys won't be reckless or anything in terms of their behavior, but obviously you can catch COVID in a variety of ways that don't involve not being reckless. So that part scares me. Specifically about what we've been doing, I like our depth. We've had more competitive practices probably in the last, I would say heading back to the summer, July, than in a long time. We have had a few minor injuries. Chase Hunter broke a finger and was out 5.5 weeks and really just kind of got back now. So he's been out a good bit. John Newman's been out a little bit with a sore knee. Jonathan Baehre obviously in and out. So we have had to deal with some things, but we have had more healthy bodies than most years. And, if we can have that throughout the course of this season, I think that'll really help our team. I think our strength is our depth and the fact that we have Al-Amir Simms and Clyde Trapp, 2 guys that have been through the wars a little bit. So we have a little bit of senior experience. But I think our depth is our big advantage.
Brad, did you ever worry that we'd get to this point where we're on the horizon of a college basketball season, or did you think when football started up they'd find a way to get this going?
No, we've always been a little worried. I think we've been, trying to be as optimistic as possible. Obviously, with the start of football, and you see a lot of success. Then this week, obviously, I think has scared me watching, all the football games that are being canceled. And I guess yesterday I heard that Miami and Stetson basketball game that, for 2 weeks or whatever it is, has already been canceled. And I think there's going to be some of that, certainly. But I think, when football started and you started to see that it was possible to play games, and I think what's been encouraging is it doesn't seem like the COVID is spreading through the play, the football games. Every time you kind of hear of outbreaks, it seems like it's, something that has happened away from the football facilities or games. And so I think that part is encouraging. Obviously our sport's different, but that part I think has been encouraging for sure.
Brad, Larry Williams here. Hope you're doing okay, man.
Good. Thanks.
We were talking with Amir a few minutes ago, and he was talking about when y'all first came back and had a few positives and kind of had to shut things down. Do you think, looking back, that gave your players like an appropriate sense of what could be lost and created more investment in the safety protocols and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think it helps. No question. It was earlier. But yeah, it set us back a little bit. And, it was early enough in the summer that it didn't affect too much, but I do think it served as a warning. And obviously we've talked about it a lot. I've talked about it, I talk about it almost every day, if not, every other day. And certainly with any off day, We talk about it a lot with what could happen, and just, you're just encouraging your guys to make good choices and do the best you can. And again, I think there's just so much COVID around now that you're just nervous, because again, I use the term reckless a lot. I just think that's what some young people are being, is extremely reckless. And I don't expect our guys to just sit in their dorm rooms or apartments. I think you can go with a friend to a restaurant, or a teammate to a restaurant, and wear your mask and do what's appropriate and eat and get out of there. You can still live a little bit of as much of a normal life as you can, to keep mentally sane during this. And I'm serious. I think the mental health of these kids at this time is as much an issue for us as coaches as the physical health. I think that's one of the things that when we were all waiting to see and understand, hey, is it safe to play? These kids need it. Like, these kids need to play. These kids need the gym. They need practice. They need access. They need things to do. And I think that's one thing that has been really good for our players, and watching our players over the summer, especially, is when you got to see them come back after having been gone from each other for a couple months. You could see how much guys missed each other, how much I missed them, being around them, our staff. These guys keep us young. They keep us excited. And you could see it amongst the players, just, what basketball means, whether it's, just coming in and those guys playing pickup games, or having a chance to shoot by themselves, or whatever. I think there's a mental approach as a coach that we've got to have through all of this to keep your guys in a good place. And, and so we're really kind of talking about that, and encouraging our guys to make good decisions, but at the same time, not expecting them to, to live under a rock.
Hey, Brad, this is Will with the Clemson Insider. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Hey, Will.
Hey, first of all, I hope your Bengals lose this week. I gotta say that, it's tradition. Secondly, just wanted to ask you, you mentioned John had a sore knee. What's the situation with him? Do you expect him to be out long, or what's the prognosis there?
No, he started back. He started back about, I don't know, it was a week and a half ago. He was out, kind of had a sprain, and was out, I don't know what it was, a week or so, and a week and a half maybe. And then he had to wear a brace for at least a week and a half of that. And now I think he's just kind of gotten out of the brace and seems to be doing well. So yeah, it was a little scary. He had a little tweak there in one of the practices, and we all kind of took a step back, and we're hopeful that it wouldn't be anything serious, and thankfully it wasn't. So some people don't know he had surgery in the off season on his knee. He actually hurt it a little bit in the Miami game there at the end of the season. So he's had some things he's had to overcome this off season. It probably hasn't been as easy for him as most people would think. But I feel like he's in a better place now. I think he's finally getting some rhythm, and expect him to be fine when we start.
Coach, this is Kyle Koso with Triple Crown Sports. We're running the Space Coast event that you guys start the season with. Just looking at a distance at some of the numbers from last year, defensively, you guys made life very difficult for the other side. I mean, numbers wise, maybe your own percentages. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but I'm sure you'd like to see a little more consistency, maybe just a little more steadiness there. But you tell me, how you're working through that. Indeed, where defensively is that something that you guys really felt was your strong base, and you're trying to figure out a way to unlock a more productive offense?
Yeah, I think, there's no secret that last year's team, we struggled to shoot the ball. When we made threes, we could be very problematic and beat some of the best teams in the country. I think we had 3 top 5 or 6 wins in the country last year. And a lot of that was, the energy and spirit in our building. Littlejohn's a great place to play. And when we're playing well, it can be challenging for even the best teams in the country. And we had some great wins, but physically we weren't a team that could dominate you. We weren't that big. We played with a lot of inexperienced young players at times last year. And so, we were inconsistent. We really had to kind of change some of how we played around Christmas. I made some changes to our offense to try to just give us a little more direction and organization, because our young guards were struggling with some things. And so we felt like that helped us, but we still are a team that relied heavily on a 3-point shooting, and we were just inconsistent. And I think that's going to be a question mark for this year's team again, is are we going to be able to consistently make threes? I think we'll shoot the ball better. And I think, for us to have the kind of season we want to have, that'll be part of it. Defensively, we certainly have been, pretty good most years. I thought we were, for a team that wasn't big last year, I thought we defended well. It's not as easy when you don't have that, primary shot blocker down there that can erase a lot of mistakes and affect shots, block shots. And we didn't have that. And so we had to do some other things with our defense to kind of protect ourselves. But all in all, I thought our guys rebounded exceptionally well, contested shots pretty well, and I thought we were a good defensive team.
And while I have you, Coach, those big wins last year, I know it maybe feel like it's 50 years ago, but at the same time, that had to be something really useful for this roster. The doors of possibility open up. You start to realize you guys are capable of almost anything. But just how many ripple effects can you ride from those big wins last year?
Well, I think those are great things to draw on when you're a player. Some of our guys were certainly big parts of those games, and that's great confidence and positive experiences that you have. And I think the more of those you can put together, the better. So certainly we're going to talk about it, build upon it. Just like you learn from losing and you learn from poor performance, you need to also build upon the things that you've done well. And we did a lot of things well, but we were a different team in January and February and March than we were in November and December, like a lot of teams. But we were certainly playing better basketball then. And, hopefully we'll start that way with this year's team. We are a little more experienced in the backcourt, which I think is critical. We did start 2 freshman guards last year and had some trials and tribulations with that early in the season, but those guys got better and getting Clyde Trapp back was really good. And I think that Clyde and Amir and some John Newman, some guys that have been through some big games and big experiences, I think they'll talk to our younger guys now and about those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad, Larry Williams again. You pretty encouraged by what you've seen out of Jonathan Baehre the last couple of months with his ability to practice consistently?
Yeah, more in the last 3 weeks, month. He's been more consistent. He still has had to miss a day or two here or there. I have no idea what's happening, but anyway. Yeah, I mean, about last 3 weeks to a month, he's been pretty consistent in his practice. And I think we were optimistic that he could get to this point. Brad Crow, the trainer, had told me that he thought there'd be, it was probably better than half a chance that, we get to the beginning of the season, he's going to be ready to play. But you never know. And he still is, he still has some issues. He has a cyst that's kind of developed behind the knee or in the back of the knee that he's had to get drained a couple times, and they're dealing with. It causes some discomfort and problems, but I'm really encouraged. He plays the game with good poise. He's an older player. It's unfortunate. It's really sad. I wish our fan base could have watched Jonathan, but the year that he sat out, he was an excellent scout team player that we had a hard time guarding, and who could really, really move. And he still moves well. Obviously now he's got a big brace on his leg, and I think he's still going to be a very positive contributor to this team. Some of it just being his experience and poise of having played, a few years of college basketball. Obviously this is going to be his first go of the ACC season, but he's really helped some of our younger guys, Omax. He's helped P.J. and Lynn a little bit, just like Amir's helped them tremendously. Just because of experience and just poise and understanding basketball. Good feel for basketball.
Hey, Brad, it's Matt. What have you seen from P.J. since he came on campus, and how much do you think he can help you guys this year?
Well, he's going to help, no doubt about it. You know, he's a big kid that has good talent. You know, he's getting a lesson in the difference between high school basketball, though, and high level college basketball. There's no question, dealing every day with Aamir Simms. You know, his first scrimmage was not very good, to be frank. He played about 25 minutes and didn't get much of anything done. And some of that's because of Aamir. Aamir didn't allow him to get much done. But he's gotten better, and he's a hard worker. The big challenge, I think, for high school kids is you go from not being able to touch anybody under the basket because you're always called for a foul to high major basketball where there's, you know, full contact karate sometimes going on down there and there's no calls. And so you got to get used to the physicality of the position. You got to get used to the speed of running up and down full court, 94 feet. Sometimes the center position can be the position that's involved the most. You know, so many teams ball screen now with their 5-man on so many possessions that the 5-man has to almost be in the best shape of anybody on your team. And so I think there's been a little bit of an awakening to that for PJ and Lynn Kidd both. And then obviously just understanding what we're doing. The more that they practice and the more they get a feel for our system, things will slow down a little bit for them and they'll be able to be even more productive. But, you know, PJ's got a tremendous upside. He's going to be a great player at Clemson. He's big, he's strong, he's smart. He's just going to need a little patience. And, you know, we're trying to be as patient as we can, but we also know that we need him to play this year and be ready and to be good. And so, you know, we're pushing him. And Amir's done a great job of really mentoring he and Lynn every day in practice and showing them what it's like to be if you want to be a great player, you just watch that guy every day.
And speaking of Aamir, I know it's just a preseason award, but seeing him be first team All-ACC, that had to be good for him and good for you. And just what are your expectations of him this year, and how have you seen him grow?
You know, just confidence-wise, continue to grow as a player. I remember there were times early last season when I was, you know, still trying to almost breathe confidence into Aamir. You know, we put the ball in his hands a lot, and obviously we had our trip to Italy where he played exceptionally well, but there were still things that he was, you know, he sometimes wouldn't throw backdoor passes. He wouldn't make plays that I thought he could make, that he just was afraid to make a mistake or he didn't trust his ability because he hadn't really done it. It was a new situation. We changed our offense. We moved him to the 5 and spread things out and moved him away from the basket and put the ball in his hands a lot. And you just saw him grow as a player last year. And, you know, I think his ability to play different ways is one of his great strengths. And, you know, I don't know that now, you know, I think he averaged 13 points a game. I don't know that Amir is going to be a 20-point scorer this year or anything like that. He may average the same. Maybe he averages a couple more points, whatever it is. But his value is in what he brings to our team every day in practice, his leadership, his work ethic, his knowledge of the game, the way he mentors players, how hard he plays every day. I mean, he's played as hard as anybody on our team every day this year. He's been as excited as anybody in our program to come to practice every day. And I'll be honest, that can be rare for a senior who's had some accolades. A lot of those guys I've had a couple guys that have gotten to that point and they're not quite as hungry. And I don't sense that at all from Aamir.
Brad, it's Pete again. If you talked about having to start Dawes and Hunter a bunch last year as freshmen, how have you seen them step forward? I know you said Hunter had an issue with his hand, but I mean, how have you seen those guys grow heading into their second years?
Yeah, I think Chase has really had some bad luck. I think he's a talented player with great speed, athleticism, pretty good shooting stroke. I think he's going to be a dynamic player when he's healthy and gains a little more experience. Unfortunately, he didn't play that many games last year, maybe 10, because of the foot injury. And then he's already gotten a little behind this year because he's been out 6 weeks with a broken finger. You know, this has really been his first, I don't know, Monday or Tuesday was kind of his first, I think it was Monday, maybe his first real day back. So it's just, I think, like, we just got to be patient. He's going to be ready, and he's going to be ready to go when we get down to Florida. But we just got to be patient with his development, because he really hasn't played as much as we all think he has. It feels like he should have played and he would have played. Al's different. Al's played 30 minutes for 30 straight games. He basically got the point guard spot out of default last year, and there were times I told him that. I said, I can't take you out of the game because I got nobody to put in. Chase Foot's out. Clyde's over here with a bad knee. We had 3 point guards. Now we have 1. It's you. And so, like, you're going to play through all the mistakes you make, the bad shots you take. And I think early on we lost some games, to be honest with you, because of some very poor decision making and poor play. But what translated was, by the end of the year, that same guy was the guy that was making the plays to beat Florida State. He made 8 game-winning plays in that game, not just the layup to win the game, but he made 8 plays in the game with confidence and swagger going against the best team in our league, where he made great plays. And, and I think you saw him grow and develop, and I think he has that same confidence and swagger. He's an extremely competitive guy. He's very valuable defensively, because he's unbelievable getting over ball screens and fighting the ball and just working. And, we're excited to add Nick Honor to that, because now you got 2 little guys that are both play with speed and pace, and, can allow you to be a little more aggressive defensively, guarding the ball. And so I'm really excited about those 2.
Hey, Brad, it's Mark from WYFF. You mentioned Lynn and PJ and even getting Jonathan back healthy. How do you think all that extra size on the floor can help Amir's game?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to see, like, how much do we want to play 2 bigs together at times? Do we feel like that's necessary? We have a lot of other players. And so, if you're doing that, then that's taken away from a lot of other guys. So we've got to make sure that that's the right thing to do. There are going to be some games when we might need to do it, though. Last year we didn't have that much depth to do it. We really had 1 other post player, and that was about it. And so just to have the ability to do that, I think is really encouraging and going to give us a little bit more versatility. Lynn's a little further behind, which we kind of knew. We'd planned on redshirting Lynn this year, just play him behind PJ and Aamir, and just kind of let him get his bearings a little bit, gain a little bit more experience. Physically, he's pretty good. Like, he's a big, strong kid. He just doesn't have as much experience, so he doesn't have quite the feel yet. And it probably is taking him a little longer to pick some things up, which is understandable for a guy that hasn't played much. But 6'10", 235, PJ 6'10", 230. I mean, you got 2 big, strong freshman guys like that. Those guys are hard to get. It's hard to get good big guys. It's hard to get size. There's not as many of those guys out there. So to put those 2 guys in here and to have them competing every day with a senior like Aamir, that's just making those guys better every day in practice.
And then you mentioned the atmosphere at Littlejohn last year for those big ranked wins. Do you worry at all about your guys feeding off the energy of a limited crowd at home this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be a real challenge. I just think this year could be unlike any other. We don't know what it's going to present, the problems, the challenges. There's no question, Littlejohn, when it's packed, has a huge impact on our team. I think you see that even in non-conference games when we're playing in front of 4,000 versus when we're playing in front of 8,000 or 9,000. I think sometimes you can see the energy being different. And, I've talked to my team about that, is that we've got to create our own energy. We've got to, we need guys to be energy givers, and that's going to be important. When you go on the road, there's not going to be a lot of juice, and some teams are going to really struggle, and some teams are going to get worn down, and some teams are going to have guys out with COVID and other injuries. And so I think the teams that can keep their spirit, have the best chance of having success. And I think that's a real challenge for coaches.
Thanks.
Hey, Brad, it's Phil Kornbluth. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
This team defensively, obviously your best teams over the years are the ones that bought into your defensive concepts. How about this team? And you mentioned your bigs, rim protection. Do you see the shot blockers on this team that can help protect the rim?
Yeah, I think we'll be a little bit more. Amir's not a shot blocker. He can block a few shots, but he's not a traditional shot blocking guy that it's going to erase a lot of mistakes. He does a good job of taking charges and just using his smarts to help our defense as much as anything. I think P.J. Hall is going to become a really good shot blocker. He's blocked a few shots in practice that are extremely impressive. Lynn can block a few shots. So I think those guys, when they're out there, will help us that way. I think the thing that is going to help us defensively a little bit is just having depth and, two things. Number one, being able to keep guys fresh and play guys that are fresh and expect them to play hard and follow the game plan. And if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's a lot easier to take guys out, and that bench becomes a really good motivator. So I think this is a year where we could do that, and we could sub guys in 5 at a time occasionally if we had to. And so I think the depth, I think competition in practice, I think those things are really going to help us defensively.
Got time for one more question.
Brad, it's Pete again. You mentioned earlier, in talking about COVID, you mentioned earlier how happy the guys were around each other, how happy you were to see them and be doing this. I know at the end of the day, you're going to get a W or an L after each game, but should there be kind of a different metric to this year given what we're all going through? I mean, if you give them a good mental health opportunity for the next 4 or 5 months, I mean, isn't that almost as strong as, an ACC title?
Oh, yeah. I think that's nice to think that way. And as a coach, that's the players are more important than anything for me. And I think that's something that I've grown to understand as I've become an older coach. Initially it's about the games and winning, and, you care about your players and you want them to be successful and all of that. As you get older as a coach, I think you appreciate the life experiences that you're providing for your players and watching them, like the joy that you get as a coach, I get out of when the court storms happen and watching my players be swamped by our student section and just watching those guys celebrate for a minute or two with their fellow students and just embracing those moments, because we see how hard the kids work. Like, our guys are in here 4 mornings a week at 7 a.m., 7:30, lifting, shooting, working on their game. I mean, so we see the amount of time they're putting in. So to see those experiences come to fruition for them, that's what you really want for them. But at the same time, at the end of the day, this is a competitive business, and fans and everybody's you're going to be judged by winning and losing, and it's probably not going to change. I think there could be some crazy outcomes, and games out there in our sport just because they happen so quickly. Who knows how many games teams are going to get. I mentioned it earlier. I'm nervous as a cat that, something's going to happen to our team in the middle of the season. And then all of a sudden you're out for 2 weeks because you have multiple guys out and you're trying to build your rhythm back. And that can be really, really hard. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Trying to keep a positive attitude. I'm really excited for the season. Love our guys and how hard they're working and the sacrifices they're making. And, we're going to hope for good things and do the best we can.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.